Hello again, Steve here to talk about a few comments about people who parachute in and other such quantum leapers. Um, yeah, I remember when I first heard this term parachute, I was in the Navy, and somebody would come from some other, get posted to a certain ship and get a senior position, even though some people thought they weren't qualified for that, and they were called parachutes because they sort of just landed in there. But they weren't respected for a number of reasons. One was, of course, now it seems like they're taking over the other guy's jobs. You can't advance. But also, they didn't have the bases. They didn't start at the bottom. I mean, for a guy who's started off doing the real grunt work and then worked his way up, he feels if somebody just parachutes in there, of course, he doesn't see what the other guy did. Maybe he also worked his way up. But there's a perception that he didn't work his way up. He just parachuted in. And there's a resentment on that for personal gain reasons, but also observation very often. The guy does not know what he's doing really. Might have the paper qualifications, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. And of course, things like apprenticeships and that sort of training was meant to get people starting at the very beginning, you know, sweeping the shop floor almost, and then learning little by little on steps, and then all the way up. So now when they got a more senior position, they can understand, they can empathize, they can have empathy with those below them because they've been all those positions. And I think this relates to us in many ways in life. If we try to short circuit what it is we're trying to learn, like no matter what it is, if it's a language, if it's a musical instrument, if it's a relationship, anything like that, and we try to jump right in to a more advanced position or a more advanced stage too quickly, very likely that we're not going to succeed because we haven't gone through all the necessary steps to aggregate the experience and the respect or the knowledge for that stage, right? And this book by Keith Richards called Life, I just finished it off here today, and a lot of life lessons in there. I mean, aside from all the cocaine and heroin and so on. But he had this one saying in there, this is a quote from Keith Richards, because he was talking about how, you know, his musical experience was beginning right at the start. I mean, he had this story about how he'd see this guitar sitting at his grandpa's place, up on a shelf or on the wall or whatever. He'd look up at it, and finally his grandpa told him, look, if you can stand high enough up to get it, you can take it down, then I'll teach you. So he started from the very beginning, just a couple of chords, and worked his way up. And he has a lot of funny sayings in there, but he said, if you want to get to the top, you have to start at the bottom. It's the same thing with everything, even running a hooer house. And of course, that's the typical Keith Richards saying, but there's probably a lot of truth to it, which is that if we really want to be successful in what we do, we have to, well, generally, I don't know how else we would do it. You got to start off somewhere, and it's usually at a very basic level as compared to where it is we want to go. We can take it, for example, with getting in shape. If we don't know anything about it, we have to go to the very basics about learning something about ourselves, otherwise we hurt ourselves, right? We try to jump ahead of the basics and we hurt ourselves. Somebody who wants to lose weight and just jumps right into some latest fad diet, very likely they fail, and they don't have any basics of nutrition knowledge and this sort of thing, physiology knowledge or anything like that. It's I think the bases are very, very important for what it is that we're doing. If we can take that little extra time to study a bit of the basics and work with the basics and work our way up, we can be more successful. We lay in more, almost like a more solid foundation, right? I like to use the analogy of building a house. If we take our time at the bottom, to make sure that the footings are right, the foundation is right, it's nice and square, and so on, it's exactly as we want the foundation to be, then we can have a solid house. If we rush through that, then we're always going to have to be cheating all the way up. We have to be cheating angles and measuring off and compensating and so on. And it's never going to be what we want it to be. But if we've taken the time to lay in that foundation, solid, square, on the bedrock and so on, then we're going to have solid bottom that we can take up to the top. Hope this is helpful. Steve here again. We want to be on the top. We've got to start on the bottom. This is true for everything, including running a Hoover house. Take care for now.